Good morning and welcome to another Jon Gaunt podcast, another one of my John meets. And today I'm meeting Ben Habib. He's the chief honcho now, the main man of a brand new political party called Advance UK. I think it sounds like a pharmaceutical place, but I'll put that to him in a couple of moments. Ben Habib, then, of course, Reform UK, the Brexit party. Want to talk to him about people like Rupert Lowe. You've got to talk about Nigel Farage as well. What's his views on migration and 900 illegal migrants getting into our great country yesterday? What does he make of Trump and Trump's ideas of how to get elected? I can't find anything to moan about in that myself. Reducing migration, law and order, etc., low taxation to promote growth. Of course, we'll talk about Starmer and Labour and the lousy last 12 months we've all had. And we've got to talk about the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs and the latest revelations about that. So there's plenty to talk about. Hope you enjoy it. It's Ben Habib, and with no further ado, he joins me now. I said he joins me now. He joins me now. Wait a minute. Where you gone, Ben? Let me just find you. Don't worry. There we are. Hiya, Ben. Good morning to you, my friend.
Hi, John. Good morning. Thank you very much for having me on.
No problem. That really breeds confidence, doesn't it? I couldn't even get you on the screen. So anyway, I am a professional, I assure you. Let's start with that then. We'll talk about your new party in a few moments. Talk about the fact that 900 illegal migrants tried to get into Britain yesterday. And I say tried, it means they are in, aren't they? The moment they're picked up, they're effectively in. What do you make of what's happening?
Well, there are 900 of which we know about. There could be more that we didn't actually pick up and ferry from the edge of our territorial waters to our shore. And I mean, what it represents is the optical revelation of the absence of borders for the United Kingdom. If you can't enforce your borders, you actually are not a country. And what it reveals is that we are incapable of being the United Kingdom because we ain't got no borders. And, there'll be a repeated theme, I suspect, given the subject matter you said you'd be discussing with me. There'll be a repeated theme of the Human Rights Act effectively undermining our ability to be a sovereign state and to do the right thing in many respects. And the Human Rights Act is also at the core of the problem here, because through the Human Rights Act, we're informed now in the body of British law, the European Convention on Human Rights, which is the Human Rights Act effectively.
Sure.
We're informed that all humanity is equal. And when these people try to break into our country from France, the default thinking is that they are in need of our protection. They have every right to be in this country just as much as we do as British citizens. And that is what has hijacked the British political class. They don't see border enforcement as actually a necessary thing because they ascribe the same privileges to foreigners as they do to British citizens. In fact, it's worse than that when you take into account the Equalities Act and progressive discrimination that came in later. But I mean, I see these people coming from France to the UK as would-be criminals seeking to break into our country. Starmer, Sunak, Boris Johnson and others before them see them as refugees. Starmer even refers to them as irregular migrants. He can't even get to thinking that they are criminals by the very nature of the act that they're committing. And
but of course, they can't apply for asylum unless they get their feet on the beaches of Dover, can they? That's the counter argument to what you're saying.
Yeah, but they're safe in France. It's not our job to provide economic benefits and sanctuary for people coming from France. It's France's job to enforce its borders and make sure that people aren't there in the first place. And to the extent that people legally apply for asylum to France, they should do it. But we do have programs, John, to make applications for asylum from abroad. And we know that we have programs for that because under the cloak of a super injunction, the last government gave permission to 23,900 effectively to come here. They were people who had made applications. Some of them had their applications rejected. But again, it was the Human Rights Act that effectively told our ministers that they should reach into Pakistan and protect these people because there'd been a breach of their data. Absolutely absurd stuff going on.
Let me ask you a direct question. And the only way to really solve the problem is to get out of the ECHR, is it?
Absolutely. So many ills of this country are founded on the ECHR and its embodiment in British law through the Human
Would
Rights
you
Act.
replace it with something, with our own Bill of
No,
Rights? What would you
no,
do?
I wouldn't replace it with anything. The notion that we didn't have human rights in this country before 1998, when we adopted the Human Rights Act, is absolutely balmy. We have a body of law that protects British citizens in this country. You don't need a specific act informing you what your human rights are. They're assured to you through the entire body of law in the Constitution of the United Kingdom. It was a hijacking of our Constitution and what it means to be a British citizen by actually bringing the ECHR into domestic law.
So you would scrap it completely. What about the people we've got here already? 25,000 since Starmer got into power. As you say, they're only the numbers that we know. At the moment, we're putting them up in hotels. It costs £8 million a day. I've been saying for weeks, shove them in tents, which is what France do. Which is where they stay in those big warehouses in Calais. I think by giving them 4-star hotels and squeezy soap, as I call it, you have effectively are giving a green light for more people to come. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're absolutely right. It's not just a green light. A green light is just permission to come. These people are actually being dragged to the United Kingdom by our generosity. They'd be mad not to come here because in France, as you pointed out, John, they have something like £5,000 per head spent on them per annum. Over here, the cost is over £50,000 per head per annum. Hotels, free food, healthcare, dental care, cash in their back pockets, iPads, translators, you name it, they get it. And this is the second phase of the way our constitution has been hijacked through the Equalities Act and subsequent regulations, which require us to progressively discriminate in favor of ethnic minorities and others. So not the Human Rights Act first got rid of what it meant to be a British citizen and ascribe the same rights to all of humanity, no matter where they come from. And then the Equalities Act and subsequent regulations have progressively discriminated in their favor. So that actually you're a second-class citizen in your own country now, in the United Kingdom.
Do you believe, though, that we need immigration? Because the birth rate's fallen. We do need well-controlled, managed immigration, don't we?
No, absolutely not. It's a failure in governance to... First of all, just a couple of things, John. The economy must never rule our constitution, culture, and our people. The economy should be the slave to the United Kingdom. If necessary, the economy should be sacrificed for the protection of the constitution, our culture, and our people, which is what we did in World War II. When we went to war with Germany, we sacrificed our economy for the protection of our people, of our country, of what we believe in, our civil liberties. The United Kingdom went to war knowing it would be a massive economic cost, but we had to protect ourselves. Sure. The economy must always play second fiddle. First thing. Second thing, sorry, I'll just quickly say this. The notion that we can't procreate is a false one. We've been, again, regulated into not procreating. We attracted both members of the husband and wife into the workplace. All the policies the governments have made over the last 30, 40, 50 years have been to attract people into work. And then we've taxed them to hell. And we've adopted policies which make it very hard to earn a decent wage. And that has incentivized British families either not to have children because they can't afford it, or to have very few children. And we need a change in governance to address it.
And part of that, I guess, would be to change the way we're taxed. So say, for example, the woman or the man, it could be either one of them, goes to work, they get some of the tax allowance of the person who stays at home to look after the children.
Absolutely. There should be tax breaks on getting married. There should be tax breaks on having children. And there should be tax breaks given if one of you is staying at home and looking after the children. We need to reverse some of these policies that we put in place before. So
in shorthand, we've got to get bonking for Britain.
We've got to get bonking for Britain. Absolutely. Bonk for Britain. What could be more pleasurable and beneficial to society than to be doing that?
What if I said to you, hold on a minute, you're of Pakistani heritage yourself. You're an immigrant. Are you not just pulling up the ladder behind you?
So, whether or not I'm an immigrant is something we could debate. Um, for what it's worth, my dad's Pakistani, my mum's English, blonde,
Right.
blue-eyed,
Yeah.
born in Isleworth. Her father fought in the Somme, and so on. I come home. My great-grandfather was a member of the cleric.
Yeah, but
Was a
you were
vicar.
born in Pakistan. I'm not
I
being
was
rude and I'm not
no,
being
no, no,
prejudiced,
no.
but you were
Sure.
born in Pakistan.
So I've had this debate with people. I'm prepared to concede I'm an immigrant because I was
Okay.
born there. But
Okay.
I've always been on my mother's passport, which is a British passport, and I was effectively educated. I see myself as English. Now that may be wrong or right, but that's how I see myself. But for the purposes of this argument, let's say I'm an immigrant. That's fine. I'm happy to accept that.
Yeah.
Um, I completely am British in the way I think, the cultural heritage that I've got, my belief system, the pride
Mm-hmm.
I have in this country, the love I have for this country, and it's something. It's something that's very hard to define, but we all know it when well, I
Yeah.
certainly know it when we feel it. When I look at the Union flag, I feel pride. I feel a sense of love and pride. And if you don't feel that when you see the Union flag or the St. George's flag, if you feel English, then there's something wrong with your own connection with the
Sure.
country.
Now you're as old as me, so you remember Norman Tebbit. So on the cricket test, then where do you stand? I mean, we're
I
playing
don't.
India at the moment, but if we were playing Pakistan, you'd be supporting England, would you?
Well, I'm not a great cricket fan.
Oh, don't
uh,
dodge the
no,
bullet.
no, 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 no. I would support England. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
supporting.
right,
I'm not a great cricket fan.
fair enough. What did you
Yeah.
make of the England female team winning? Did that please you? Did that give you a sense of pride? Because it certainly gave me a sense, and I was very cynical about women's
Yeah.
football before.
I'm also not into football, John. Forgive me. I didn't watch the
Oh,
game.
boring old tart.
I do watch rugby. I went to rugby school, and so
Yeah.
rugby's in my system, and I love rugby.
But
But
you
I
were
will
pleased, I
say,
guess, that England won
of
the
course, yeah,
Euros.
of course, yeah, of course. And but I will say this too, that when Scotland is playing in, Wales, Scotland.
Yeah,
I mean, Ireland's slightly different, but Wales or Scotland playing,
you
I
get behind
always
them.
support them as long as they're not playing England, in which case I support England.
Okay. Why is the English flag, why is the flag of St. George so hated by so many people, not just the uber liberals, but people in the Labour Party, people in the Conservative Party? They seem ashamed of it. Why? I think it's wonderful. We should wrap ourselves in it as much as we can.
100%. I completely agree with you. And it's because England has been such a driver of prosperity for this country in
Mm.
all respects, cultural, constitutional, and economic. England has been a massive success in its history. And I think people are ashamed of that success. They're ashamed of the imperial past that we have. And they ascribe their the, the negativity that they see in our
Mm.
past to things like the St. George's flag and the Union flag. Many people see the Union flag as a
As a symbol.
belligerent form
Mm.
of nationalism. I mean, for God's sake, they've hijacked the word nationalist, haven't they, John? You
Yeah.
can't say I'm a nationalist because you're categorized as being far right. But
You're not
fundamentally, a
in
national
Scotland, of course, or in Wales, but you are
no,
in England. You're
in England,
absolutely
you are in
correct.
England. Yeah.
Totally different approach. Just let's get back to the immigration bit for a minute. You would stop all immigration unless they were highly skilled and we needed them, I guess. What about what about deportation? Is it true that your party stands for mass deportation?
So I will just say that our party has not made policies yet. We are
Yeah,
going to make policies through committees that are going to be set up once we have got the full party status. But immigration is the salient issue of the day, and we
yeah.
do have an overarching approach to immigration, which I can run you through
Yes,
if you like.
just give me a bit.
Um,
Give me that for a bit. Yeah.
yeah. So on the first day of an advanced UK government, the first things that we would do are to have a cessation. We would stop the granting of indefinite leave to remain, and we would stop the granting of British citizenship. We don't know how many people are here in this country from abroad. We don't know how
Sure.
many illegal migrants here. And until we can get a control of the issue, we need to stop creating an addressable problem by granting indefinite leave to remain and British citizenship. So that's the first thing. On the same day, we would also revoke the Equalities Act and the Human Rights Act. They would both go so that we could get back control of our borders. Having got the regulatory framework in place that we would need, the legislative framework in place that we would need to protect ourselves and move forward, we would then, as you rightly say, identify as many of the illegal migrants in this country as possible, invite them to leave the country. If they decline to leave the country, incarcerate them in tented communities behind barbed wire, under guard, until they are mass deported from the country, effectively. And if they come from countries where we can't deport them, if those countries have trade with the UK, we would cease that trade, or we would impose sanctions on them, or tariffs, and we would withdraw aid. We would force the countries from which they came as best we could to take them back. But under no circumstances would they be allowed to roam freely in the United Kingdom if they are here illegally. That's how we would deal with illegal migrants who are here. We would enforce our borders. We would, sorry, go on, yeah.
No, I understand that
we would
fully.
Enforce, yeah.
Some people would say that is far right. Some people would say that's almost fascist. And some people would say that sounds a bit like the Nazis, putting them in camps behind barbed wire. I'm not saying it. I'm saying some people will say that, won't they?
Well, they're here illegally. They are criminals. We don't possess the requisite number of prison cells in which to hold them, which is where they should be. So in the absence of prison cells, we would have to repurpose airfields and other things as holding facilities for them.
And of course, this would act as a massive deterrent for other people that even contemplating coming.
The minute we did that, they'd stop coming. The minute we did that, you can stop the illegal migration instantly if you wish to do it. If the government doesn't want to do it.
I find it odd that Adolf Hitler never managed to invade, and all we had was Corporal Jones and Mr. Mannering patrolling the beaches, if you understand what I mean. I've been a bit rude to the Home Guard, but they never got in then. How are we letting them in? Why haven't we got the Navy in the Channel? Why haven't we got commandos and Marines on the beach?
You mentioned that you and I are the same age. You'll recall very well, I'm sure, that when we were brought up, we were told that the Channel acted as a moat of protection for the United Kingdom. And it's now become our Achilles heel. It's the way we think of people breaking into the country now. That's what's been hijacked. It's not understanding that these people are breaking into our country. It's ascribing instantly refugee status to them and saying that they need our protected blanket. And that's the default starting position. Are you with me, John?
I'm with you. I understand fully. You're listening to the Jon Gaunt Show. I'm speaking to Ben Habib. He used to be, of course, in the Brexit party, used to be in Reform, had a bit of a spat with Nigel Farage. We'll talk to him about that in a moment. He's now running Advance UK. They're a new political party. He's looking for 30,000 sign-ups. You haven't got that yet, though, have you, Ben?
No, but we're only about 4.5 weeks old, and we've got 14,000 sign-ups. So we've done damn well. We now rank, in terms of membership, we rank 7th in the United Kingdom of political parties, behind the SNP, who've got, I think, 54,000 members. I'm absolutely confident we'll get to 30,000 very soon.
What about Jeremy Corbyn then? He's thrashing you. And Zara Sultana, they've got 300,000 lefties signed up to them.
He's got no members. You go to that website, the Your Party website, and it's just a sign-up page. There's no constitution. There's nothing about their mission statement. It just says, please register here. It's like it's just a registration process.
All right, and you talk about constitution, and that's interesting. That's where we can bring in Nigel Farage. Your split with him was over the fact that you didn't feel his party or Reform was democratic enough. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I mean, there are a number of issues with Farage and Reform, but fundamentally, it's because the party is incapable in its current structure to deliver, I think, the right policies for this country and indeed attract the right people into the party. Any incoming government that wants to undo the damage that 30 years of this kind of governance that we've experienced, to undo that damage is going to need a team of champions. And Farage is Reform is Farage. And without a restructuring of Reform, you won't be able to attract the talent into Reform that's required to deliver the policies and the agenda.
I accept that, but you cannot deny he is Mr. Charisma. He's the most charismatic politician. He's the only politician in Britain who set out to achieve something and achieved it. Brexit. I know it's got its faults, but that's what he's done. And look
He
at his
didn't
poll
achieve it,
rating.
John.
Hang on a minute. Look at his poll ratings.
Yeah.
They are fabulous. He will, unless he does something wrong, he will be the next prime minister, won't he?
He is doing a lot wrong, and fundamentally, he's not serving the purpose for which he claims. He's not serving the purpose which he claims to serve, which is a restitution of our sovereignty. We did not leave the European Union. The idea that the United Kingdom left is absolutely false. Northern Ireland is left behind. Northern Ireland has different human rights laws to Great Britain. It's not just a trading issue. It's not to prevent a customs border on the island of Ireland. Northern Ireland has been left behind to all intents and purposes in the European Union, subject to foreign laws adjudicated by a foreign court. And the fact that Farage can't see that he's not prepared to call that out for what it is. In fact, he's on the record saying a united Ireland is inevitable, and he's perfectly happy to share a platform with Mary Lou McDonald, head of Sinn Féin, effectively apologist for the IRA. He's happy to share a platform with her. He's happy for a united Ireland to be conceived of. He's not worthy of being prime minister of this country.
Why does he want to be it then? And when you work with him, did you find it very much? I mean, I've worked and met him and done lots of times, but is it very much it's Nigel's way or the highway? Is that one of the problems?
Yeah, that is one of the problems. That's not the overarching that is a real problem, but it's the combination of the problems. He doesn't have a political philosophy, John. You might find that hard to believe, but he doesn't. And you'll see that you are seeing that at the moment in the various policies they come out with.
Is he as bad as Starmer in that respect? Because one of the complaints about Starmer is he got into power and he went through the doors of Downing Street and said, right, what's the plan? And everyone looked at him and said, you're meant to have the plan. Is that the problem? There's no overarching in either of them. Are they similar like that?
They could be. I don't. Farage is the ultimate in political expediency. He's a cunning fox. He's not a lion. And what we need is a lion as prime minister next. Yeah. Someone who can call the problems out bravely for what they are and come up with proper solutions, accompanied with a team of champions who can deliver those solutions. Farage is not that. He's the charismatic campaigner you described, but that's it. He's just all performance and there's no substance.
As my dad used to say, he's all sizzle and no sausage. But we'll move on from there. Do you think, though, because he's against mass deportation, isn't he? Is that kind of a major point of difference between you?
So the term mass deportation is quite an emotive term.
Yeah.
And I just want to define what it means. It means the deportation of all the people in this country who are here illegally. Okay. That should not be a controversial thing. And he is on the record saying that he is against that. And by saying he's against mass deportation, actually, he's just encouraged illegal migration to the country. He's just basically said, if I were to become prime minister, actually, it's too big a task to deport all of you that are breaking in. He's part of the problem when he says things like that.
Okay, he's part of the problem. But let me tell you, and I'll be straight with you, I've slagged you off and Rupert Lowe off, saying, for God's sake, the last thing we need, we've got the best opportunity ever to get a proper right-wing government that are going to do the things that we're going to talk about in a moment that Trump wants to do. And you're fighting like cats in a sack or rats in a bag. Why can't you just put your differences aside and work together?
So you describe, I think, if I may say so, John, there is a mistake in describing left and right in the way that you've just used it.
Okay.
I'm not right-wing. I believe in the nation state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in democracy and equality under the law. These are the four principal drivers behind the party. That doesn't make me right-wing. And I believe the economy serves the constitution, the culture, and the people. And so I'm not right-wing from an economic perspective either. I also believe that if you're in politics, you have to serve the working middle classes because they are the majority of the people in your country. So there's nothing right-wing about me.
But why can't you work with Nigel and Rupert and unite to give the people a way out of this terrible mess we're in with Starmer? After terrible 14 years with the Conservatives.
Nigel doesn't believe in the nation state of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. He's happy for United Ireland. He doesn't believe in freedom of speech. Anyone in his party who's tweeted anything with which he disagrees gets chucked out. He uses lawfare in order to nobble people in his own party. Look at what they tried to do to Rupert Lowe. So he doesn't believe in equality under the law. And as far as democracy is concerned, you can't have democracy if you don't have freedom of speech and equality under the law. They're two cornerstones of a democratic society.
So he's a con man and a hypocrite, is he?
Well, I think he is a circus performer. Absolutely. He's not real. And so
why do the polls show that lots of people disagree with you and want him to be the next prime minister then? Are we all stupid?
No, not at all. There have been polls done which include an option of none of the above. And those polls always return none of the above as the favoured option.
What about Rupert Lowe then? Is he going to be part of this new party? I'm hearing rumours you've got some policy differences, but that actually you'll come together.
Well, I wanted Rupert to lead this party. The minute he was thrown out of Reform in the way that he was, I talked to him and I said, look, we've got to set up a new party.
Sure.
And he agreed. And the party was constructed in the expectation that he would lead it. But after the charges that were made against him were dropped, I think he had a period of reflection, decided he was against party politics, at least for the moment, didn't want to be in a party. Okay. And I firmly believe that the only way you can give effect to change is at the ballot box. So I do believe not only is Advance UK needed, I think this is absolutely the right time to be launching it.
Okay, so let's move on then now to what Advance might be. And let's base that discussion around what Trump said when he gave Starmer a pep talk the other day. Low taxation, fracking, baby frack, law and order, no wars, and stopping illegal migration. I just thought that was a blueprint. What did you think?
Absolutely a blueprint, and all of it consistent with someone who believes in their own country. The minute you believe in your own country, you want to reduce the burden of taxation on your people. You want the borders to define your country so that you can't be effectively invaded by people who shouldn't be here. You want low energy costs, so you ditch stupid things like net zero and you use fossil fuels in the way that Trump said we should. You end wars because wars are damaging. Unless you absolutely have to go to war, you don't go to war. War is not a good thing.
Okay, so let's talk about that then, because then Starmer had this press conference. He stood behind his little podium after getting an absolute trashing by Trump, and it obviously couldn't cope with it. He just looked like an absolute little schoolboy. And then he gets behind his podium and threatens one of our greatest allies, Israel. You better give in to the terrorists, otherwise we're going to take the ball away. It was just ludicrous. And now we've got top lawyers saying he can't do it, it'd be illegal. We've got Trump on the plane. He didn't even consult Trump. He was with Trump for 4 days, or 2 days at least. He didn't consult him. And Trump says no. And then this morning, the rhetoric's got even tougher. There is no way that Trump is going to accede to this nonsense in the UN. And it is giving support and succor to a terrorist organization. And of course, the hostages' families have come out and said, what the hell are you doing? Our people, our family members are still being held by these scum terrorists. What do you make of that? Why did he do it?
Well, I think it has more to do with domestic politics than it does with his own view of foreign policy. He's playing to the pro-Palestinian sectarianism that has infected British society as a result of open borders and mass migration, about which we've just, had a discussion. And this is, of course, what you're seeing in it playing out in the UK now is the effects of bringing into our country people who are basically anti our values and our culture, and now pandering to them through the democratic system, so semi-democratic system we've got, what's left of it, and making foreign policy decisions based on appeasing them rather than doing the right thing for the country.
And he's going to do another U-turn, isn't he? He has to do a U-turn. There's no way he's going to be able to get away with this nonsense. And those who support Corbyn, or his backbench MPs who are scared of the Muslim vote, and let's be honest about it, well, not just his backbench MPs. Jess Phillips, She nearly lost out to a radical Muslim candidate. I think there was only 600 votes in it. We're getting ghettoized, religious-based, ethnic voting if we're not careful. I don't want that in the UK, but he's
Not if we're not careful.
it.
We've got it, John. We've already got it. Yeah. We've got multiculturalism. Multiculturalism doesn't mean people coming together and integrating and getting the best of all cultures and homogenizing in some way and then moving forward stronger. That's not multiculturalism. Multiculturalism is lots of different cultures in separate silos doing their own thing and with division, effectively, without society. Society requires a settled culture. That's the definition of society. And we have division in our society. When we talk about the different communities in the United Kingdom, actually what we're referring to is all the different cultures that the United Kingdom now has. This is not enrichment. This is not people getting richer culturally as a result of rubbing shoulders with each other. This is just merely division in our society. And we've got to stop it.
Is diversity our strength?
No, the only thing that is of strength is diversity of thought. And in order to give effect to multiculturalism and diversity of ethnicities, you actually have to shut down diversity of thought because you're not allowed to challenge it. The only way that you can get the majority of British people to shut up is by shutting down free speech. And we've seen that.
Well, and which some people would say has been happening with Lucy Connolly. I mean, there's good news today. Looks like she'll be out in a couple of weeks' time as we get into August, but she should never have gone down for 31 months. And I guess also the Online Act, where there's a huge row about this, where they're trying to suggest. And what did you make of that when they slurred and didn't libel, but certainly was a nasty comment about Farage, that Farage would be supporting the worst paedophile on record, Jimmy Savile. I mean, it was just atrocious.
Yeah. So Kyle, I think his name is a pretty. I've been on Question Time with him. He's quite vile. I said nothing to offend him on Question Time, and he just attacked me at the end. He verbally assaulted me at the end of the program for no reason. He's a vile human being, and of course, whatever I think of Nigel Farage, he is no paedophile. He is a law-abiding individual, as far as I'm aware. And I think that he should apologize to Farage. Of course, children need protection, John. Children
How would you protect them then? How would you protect them?
Well,
I've been talking to my daughters about this, and they explained to me about VPNs. This was a year or two ago I learned about. I didn't know they existed. So kids know how they could get around this if they wanted to look at it.
But it comes back to where we started our discussion, back to the family. It's having proper parenting, bringing up children properly. I mean, I couldn't I'm quite short, so I could never reach the top shelves in news stores when I was a child. But I never really had a desire to reach the top shelves because I was brought up, not to be yearning for that kind of thing. But parents need to explain to their children what the issues are online, what the difficulties are, what the challenges are, and they need to bring their children up properly. We've got to place responsibility back on parents. To want the government to legislate for safety is a very difficult thing to do. We've got to understand parenting means parenting.
It's interesting that many years ago, you may remember, you may not, there was a man called Ray Wire. He was an expert on sexual abuse and worked with some of the worst offenders. I used to live near him in Milton Keynes. I used to have him on as a guest, and he then did lots of media appearances. He sadly died at a very young age. But he used to say, John, didn't you have secrets when you were a teenage boy? And he said, I bet you always got a nosebleed. You had that many pornographic magazines under your mattress. You'd end up with vertigo. And this was his joke, but he was right. And this was just when the internet was starting. And he said, it's so important to have the computer in the kitchen or the dining room or in the front room so you can see what your kids are doing. And that reminded me of my mum and dad when she was, well, certainly my dad, was that the phone was always in the hallway and he could walk past and hear what you were saying. Now, it's all moved on so much that you've only got this and you can have that anywhere you want. And I guess that TV program, Adolescence, that was just on recently, some people criticised it, but I thought it was quite good that the lad was going upstairs. They thought he was doing his homework and he was looking at the most dreadful stuff, not just pornography, everything else. And it's affected him. But that is, as you say, in the end, a failure of parenting. Parents should be saying, what the bloody hell are you doing?
As the world changes, and it's not the first time the world has changed, it's changed the world is continuously changing.
Yeah.
Parents need to adapt to how they bring up their
Sure.
children. They need to respond to it. But in essence, the parents need to be the ones making the decisions and crafting, how their children are brought up.
And do you believe that the online security bill, whatever it's called, will be used to close down dissent? Would be used to stop people criticising Starmer and the government? Is that what they're after?
Well, they've already set up a special police unit to monitor the internet for anti-migration commentary. I mean, why can't we talk openly about the need to control legal migration and the need to stop illegal migration? Why can't we talk about that openly? Why do they need to police it?
I want to talk
This
about
is what I
Starmer
mean.
in a moment.
This is what I mean about free speech being shut down in order to deliver these extreme ideologies.
Yeah, I understand. So let's just talk now about the Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, which we're now allowed to say. We weren't allowed to call them that before. I mean, doing this has been enlightening to me, because when you go into Chat GPT or you put this up on YouTube, you can't use the word rape. And if you say it too many times, it gets demonetized, your video, even if you're doing it in a news context. So there's a controlling element there. So what I wanted to know was, now that we can call them that, why has it been going on? I mean, have you got any idea? And why have people from all backgrounds turned a blind eye to it, ignored it? We're now hearing that the police in Yorkshire, some of them were raping the girls as well. I mean, it's just horrendous.
I think, again, a couple of things have happened here, and they both have their roots in our inability to discern what it means to be a British citizen and to ascribe all of humanity exactly the same rights. And it comes back to the Human Rights Act, the European Convention of Human Rights. And through this notion that everyone deserves the protection of the law, irrespective of what they do, the criminals have now somehow managed to get the protective blanket of the state. And the victims have been thrown under a bus. And these white underage girls from working class, it's important to recognize they're from the working class,
yes, it is.
were their rape, if it had been revealed in the way that it should have been revealed, would have put paid to the ideology of multiculturalism, mass migration. It would have stood in opposition to it. And so those people, which constitute the vast majority of the political class, who didn't want their experiment challenged, who believe in effectively protecting criminals, which is what it boils down to, and believe in progressive discrimination in favor of minorities in this country, protected it. The institutional framework of this country, the institutions that are charged to protect us, actually protected the criminals here, because they didn't want to challenge the ideology. They were nervous themselves of being accused of being racist, etc. And so the criminals weren't challenged and the victims were thrown under a bus. I just want to say one other thing, John. I had a long discussion. I did a YouTube interview with a former head of law enforcement in Pakistan.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "You lot have lost the plot. We have he said there is a treaty between the United Kingdom and Pakistan, a Pakistan prisoner transfer treaty, which enables the British government to send back to Pakistan anyone who's committed a crime in the United Kingdom who holds a Pakistani passport. And it's never once been invoked because of the ECHR. He said, you've lost the plot. The Pakistani government's not going to volunteer to take criminals back, but there is a treaty. Yeah, why would they? There is a treaty, use it.
And does this kind of collective thought that you're talking about within the liberals who are trying to frame what our society should be, the multicultural experiment, etc., the supporters of the ECHR, is that what also led to people like Starmer when he got called a wanker when he came with the wreath to Southport? Is that what prompted him to run away and then call all of the protesters far-right thugs? And as a result, the riots happen, and as a result, Lucy Connolly. Is that part of it?
Starmer.
That they can't possibly understand that white working-class people are perhaps just a tad upset about some maniac killing 3 little girls in a dance class, and that's why they're angry. And that, therefore you can't leave a vacuum. I mean, even his terror czar has said you can't leave a vacuum of information. But it seems like Starmer is dense. He has no idea of what ordinary, the common people think.
When he went to lay that wreath in Southport, he
Mm.
already knew that
Yes.
the killer was a second generation Rwandan, not a Welshman, not the
Yeah.
deflection that he tried to give it by saying he's a Welshman. He wanted to conjure up in our minds an image of
Mm.
someone middle aged standing in a field tending sheep. That's the image he wanted to convey. But the reality is, as a second generation Rwandan, he also knew that the individual was in possession of ricin. He knew
Yeah.
that the individual was in possession of workbooks from Al Qaeda. He knew that those three children had been stabbed. We didn't know, but he
No.
knew, Starmer knew, that one of them had been stabbed 125 times and then he had an attempt to remove her head. He knew all of this when he went to Southport. And when he laid the wreath in Southport, you might recall, John, he had his back to the crowd. There were
Yeah.
crying, weeping women in the crowd.
I watched it
He,
live. I watched it
yeah,
live. I couldn't believe it.
and he didn't turn around and address them.
No.
If his conscience was clean, if he really felt what you and I felt, and so many others in this country felt hearing what had happened, he would have turned round to the crowd and he would have addressed the crowd. And what he should have said, this is what I would have said, certainly. This was a second generation Rwandan who committed this crime. He was in possession of this, that, and the other. I am the British Prime Minister. This experiment with multiculturalism has gone too far. We need the strong arm of the law to bring it down. And I assure you, the British people, that this will all now stop. I will put the protective blanket of our law enforcement around the shoulders of the British people, and this will not happen again. I will do my level best to stop it. He didn't do it. There wouldn't have been any protest, John, if he'd made that kind of speech.
Well, he didn't do it, and he still hasn't done it, has he? I mean, I watched the
No.
One Day in Southport documentary the other day, which I thought was stunning TV, but he still hasn't done it. And then we can go on to other events during this miserable 12 months where he hasn't got the tone right. What's
Yeah, it's
wrong
not
with
just
him?
tone. It's not just tone. I mean, my God, he just got that so wrong. No one was. There may have been far. I don't know what far right is anymore. It seems to me that anyone from the, if you're white, working class, and you got a tattoo, you're far right.
Yeah,
That's what it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
basically
yeah,
what.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I mean, I would have thought the majority of people protesting were former Labour voters, people who actually had voted Labour, that come
Mm.
from generations who voted Labour. They were the white working class who were up in arms about what was going on, partly because of obviously the economic impact that they've had as a result of mass migration, but also the assault on society by illegal migrants who are now, we know they've chucked acid in the faces of women, they've raped women, it's, we've got to get a grip. We've got to get a grip.
And can Starmer get a grip? And is there any way he can change his fortunes round? I mean, he's got another 4 years, or Labour has. Do you believe he'll serve the full term?
Whether he will serve the full term or not, I don't know.
Well, that's
That
why I asked it like that. There's
yeah,
him,
yeah,
and then there's the
yeah,
party.
yeah. There's him in the party. He may well go. I mean, even with Trump the other day, he referred to illegal migrants as irregular
Yes,
migrants.
he did.
He just doesn't get it. He's not
And then
thinking
he
straight.
lied about the boats. He said, "Oh, and we get on top of that, we've just returned 30,000 people." But they're not the people arriving at Dover. Many of them had volunteered to go back.
Yeah. So he's wed to this ideology. There's every chance he may go in an attempt to bolster their own popularity. There's every chance he may go. The Labour Party will resist an early general election, but there's also every chance, John, that we may need to go to the IMF pretty soon, cap in hand, given the
Yeah,
huge damage they've done to the economy.
he'll be
And
bankrupt. Yeah.
yeah, and that could precipitate an election.
So that leads on naturally. We've got to finish in a moment. Rachel Reeves. What do you make of her? And what do you make of her cry? Again, I was watching it live when she started crying. I mean, what on earth? I mean, and people say, oh, well, people do get upset at work, and that's better that we're like that and we're allowed to show emotions. She's the flipping chancellor. It's
I know.
not acceptable. It's
No, it's
not
not
acceptable.
acceptable. People in this country take their lead and um, either encouraged or incredibly discouraged by the way the leaders of this country behave. And if
Precisely.
they see a Chancellor of the Exchequer crying on the front benches, they think, Jesus, we're out of control. What is going on here? And I mean, Rachel Reeves has been awful. The Labour government, when it took office, claimed there was a £22 billion black hole. And then in her first budget, she proceeded to spend over 70 billion quid, only half of which was raised through taxation and or forecast to be raised through taxation. Actually, she's failed to raise that amount of money because you can't get blood out of a stone.
No.
And so we've got debt through the roof. We already had the highest debt level since World War II when she took over. And now it's forecast to go up dramatically further. And at some point, and it'll come overnight, John, when it comes, the markets will say we're not buying British government bonds.
Yeah.
And when the market says they're not buying British government bonds, that's when we will go bankrupt. It's a confidence trick getting people to buy our paper, because they've got to believe that the paper won't be devalued, they'll be repaid in whole. But we're losing that confidence. We're losing that confidence. And I don't know if you've heard of a Minsky moment. Everything seems fine in the market until something happens, and then it all changes. And that could happen any time now, I think.
And you're a really highly successful British businessman. Do you pull out what's left of your hair, like me, at the fact that they've got no bloody business experience in there at all, including people like Jonathan Reynolds, who says he was a solicitor and he's never passed an exam? And she lied about her CV. It's just a farce, isn't it?
It is. And what we've seen, what it reveals also is a complete collapse in the way parties are governed. The Labour Party and the Tory Party are guilty of this. In the pursuit of getting people who will toe the line, they've dumbed down their parliamentarians. They wanted people who are just yes men. And reform, by the way, is the same, I'm afraid. They just want yes men. And if you have yes men, you've got no brave thinking going on. You've got no novel thinking going on. You've got no original thinking going on. You don't want yes men. You want people who are broadly aligned with your direction of travel.
But will challenge you.
But will challenge you and say, this ain't right, buddy. This is going to be bad news.
Sure. What a state. Have you got any sunny uplands for us before you go?
Absolutely.
Anything that can make us feel better? Anything that can make us feel proud?
The next government will be a pro-British government. Its complexion has yet to be determined, but Labour will not be in government next time round. It'll be a pro-British government. It'll have the protection, I believe, of a patrician American Republican president. I hope in J.D. Vance.
J.D. Vance,
together with J.D. Vance and the new pro-British government that comes in, I think we will save the United Kingdom. We will start reversing the last 30 years of ideology that's governed us, and we'll go back to a pro-British agenda. I'm sure of it.
That makes me feel a little bit better. Ben Habib, it's been great talking to you. We've spoken before on telly, but both as guests, but it's just so good to try and get underneath the skin. I wish you well with Advance UK. It's a crap name, by the way, in my personal opinion. It does sound like a pharmacist. I told Howard Cox.
It's not a pharmacist. It's military. It's Advance UK. Advance.
Oh, right. So it's Advance UK. Is that what we're meant to say?
Advance UK. Yeah, you can't say it like Colgate. You've got to say Advance.
I wish you all the best with that. It's great talking to you. I'm sure we'll speak again. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. That's Ben Habib. If you've got a view on what he had to say, please write it in the comments down below. And I'll answer that in one of my next live podcasts. I will be back tonight at 6:30 with the usual show, but this will be coming out today as well. We want your views. We're trying to do politics and society and culture and definitely broadcasting in a different way without the restraints of the mainstream, lamestream media, which I made a good living out of for a long time until they got rid of me. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do something different, and I can't do it without you. So if you've enjoyed the show and you'd like to donate something, click on the little $sign at the bottom, please, of the YouTube video, or go to www.buymeacoffee.com and donate anything from a $5 upwards. I know you can do it. And if you don't think what I've just done for you there is worth for a $5, I don't know what the hell I've got to do. So until we meet again, if you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug, hold them tight, and don't forget to tell them you love them. Cheers. See ya.